Welcome to the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Gabriella Cruz alongside Nick Padone and Chris McNeil. Coming off kind of a cool weekend. You were at a charity event, Nick. I want you to talk a little bit about that. Spring training is in full swing, and NFL Combine is upon us.
Yeah, Gab. Honestly, I want to start the show and say that I'm glad that you're back.
Yeah.
It was very weird for me to drive the show on Monday when you were in spring training, and it was cool to still catch up with you on the computer from Goodyear, but it's definitely nice to have you back in studio so I don't have to drive the show anymore. We are very lucky to have you in our presence for the show again this week because, man, it is not easy.
Yeah. Did you
Any
guys
other travel issues other than the
The jacket, did we
incident?
find the coat?
Hey, so I followed up about the jacket. Guys, I think someone really swiped it.
Wow.
I mean, it was a cute jacket, and I just got it, so it was in mint condition. Pun intended, because it was a mint-colored coat.
So check eBay right now for a
I
mint-colored
know.
coat that says from the famous
And
Gabriella
you know
Cruz
what?
that they're selling for like thousands of dollars, I'm sure, right now.
Yeah. Good luck with my armpit sweat. Because I was like hustling that whole morning. I know. What if it was just some creeper on the internet?
Yeah,
who
it
was
could
like,
be.
Hang on a second. But yeah, unfortunately, that coat is sold out online now.
Wow.
It was on Amazon.
Brutal.
You know, like just one of those cool Amazon knockoff finds. So
You're going to
Yeah.
have to buy back your own coat.
I
Go onto
know.
eBay. Just keep monitoring.
yeah.
It's going to show
It'll
up.
pop up for sure.
At least the weather's nicer now, so I don't need it as
There you
much.
go.
Yeah. The Booby basketball game was awesome. So shout out to our guy, Booby Gibson, host of Booby's World here on Big Play. Hosted the Boobies Stop the Violence first ever celebrity charity event. It was cool. A lot of our Big Play people were there. Ricky Smith was there. Josh and Maria Cribbs were there. Dave and I went to support as well. And it was cool to see them work with the P League, which was like a basketball league here locally in Cleveland. Ricky refused to go into the game, which was definitely the highlight. He was a little bit nervous, I think, that his basketball prowess didn't live up to the level of competition that was out there with the P League. Disappointed to see that.
Who was out there?
There were a lot of people. So there was somebody from Cleveland that acts on Young Sheldon, blanking on his name. Cleveland boxer Montana Love participated in it too. Booby coach Jerome Baker was one of the celeb coaches. Linebacker for the Dolphins, played at Ohio State. So it was a cool kind of give back celebrity type event. But I wish Ricky would have went in the game, man.
I can't
That's
believe
the thing.
He didn't.
It sounded like this game wasn't like the all-star game for the NBA. These guys were really playing out there,
These
right?
guys were really playing. And I think that's what scared Ricky off maybe a little bit, was there were some thunderous dunks that were being thrown down in Garfield Heights Bulldogs gym.
He
So
didn't want to throw up an air ball. in front of
yeah,
everybody.
yeah. I think he didn't want to get embarrassed out there.
You guys
Ricky,
are calling
come
out
on.
Ricky pretty hard
Or
here.
get stuffed. He can handle it. He'd roast us right back.
Right, he for sure would. But
Love you, Ricky.
it was awesome. You know, great to see Booby kind of giving back to the community and the P League for getting everybody out there at Garfield Heights High School, and it was a cool night for sure.
What do we think about this NFL Combine, guys?
Well, it's a little different than past years as a Browns fan. You know, you don't have that first-round pick. All your picks are going to be later on in the draft. Be interested to see what's going on. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Certain position groups, namely wide receiver crew. But I'll still be interested to tune in a little bit to see if anybody does anything that's kind of record type of stuff, anything that we haven't seen at the Combine before. I don't get as excited as I think most people do who are NFL snobs with this stuff. But, you know, there's always a story or two that comes out that's pretty interesting.
For sure, and definitely interested to watch the wide receivers, you know, probably the most pending thing for our Cleveland Browns, and you hit on it, Chris. You know, not having a first-round pick makes the Combine a little bit less interesting than it normally is, especially when you look at these Browns draft picks. Only 2 picks in the top 100. I'm going to keep talking about that because that is so not like Andrew Berry to
It's not
enter
gonna
a
stay
draft
that
in
way,
April.
is it?
I don't think it's staying that way, guys, at all. I really think that come this offseason, at some point, they're going to find a trade or they're going to find a way to get another pick in that top 100, because when you look at this roster top down, there are spots that they could definitely use a top 100 pick. They got 6 picks, 7 picks. None in the top 100 is so not like Andrew Berry. So I'm expecting that to change for sure.
And now they're going to have a little bit more money because that cap went up last week.
Andrew Berry got that stimulus check, Chris. Remember in COVID when everybody was getting the stimmy and people were talking about, the money that hit their bank account? That's what Andrew Berry got. Not from the U.S. government, but from Roger Goodell. Got that little bit of pay increase. And that is always going to be good news for the Cleveland Browns for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, they have an owner that does not care. Jimmy Haslam is willing to write big checks to players. We've seen it year in and year out. He did it for Deshaun Watson. He did it for David Njoku, Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, all these guys that he paid big time money to keep in Cleveland. And reason number 2 is you have Andrew Berry, a Harvard educated GM and front office who knows how to manipulate the cap. So whenever that number goes up, it is going to be a good thing for the Browns. And there are going to be players every single offseason because that number will continue to go up with the TV deals, the gambling deals, and all those sort of things.
Should make it for an interesting offseason this year.
Yeah, definitely. There one thing about Browns off seasons, they're never boring.
No.
All right, guys. Well, we'll get a little more in depth on everything. Let's take our first break. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Gabriella Cruz, Nick Pidone, and Chris McNeil by my sides today. And guys, I know we always say it, but it's so toasty in here. And does this mean, though, that the level is, I think, ×2, meaning that means the outdoors. We're going to be starting to get the nice weather finally, or am I getting too excited?
No, I mean, it is starting to warm up. You look at that stupid little Apple weather thing, which is always wrong, but I mean, it's at least sometimes in the ballpark correct, and 50s and 60s, no more 20s and snow. I'll tell you that right now.
I just feel like, what if opening day is nice weather for once? I know I'm really getting ahead of myself.
Well, I know one thing. It's going to be dark about 3 o'clock.
The eclipse, baby. Woo, woo, woo. I don't really get it.
Eclipse of the heart.
What does that mean for our bets? What is the eclipse on guard? Is that like good vibes, bad vibes? Like,
we're going to find out. Maybe it means more Austin Hedges home runs.
I know. How about that? Spring training off to a little bit of a hot start. Man, that opener, they opened up with a little bit of a clunk, and I was making the jokes. Nice to see the Guardians offense pick up where they left off from last year of just not being very productive at all. But then Will Brennan hit a homer early in spring training. Austin Hedges, home run early in spring training. I don't know, man. Maybe Stephen Vogt, new manager, could get some big time power out of some of these bats, because that was something that was really missed for the Guardians. I think, Gab, your point, I think starting the season in Cleveland where the weather isn't so great plays into not a lot of home runs. We don't really get to see the weather change until June, July, and that's where we start getting a little more balls that leave the yard. But we gotta have some more of that. And it'd be cool to have a couple home runs for the solar eclipse or lunar eclipse, or what the hell even is this?
And kicking it all off was Cookie on the mound.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool to see. You got Austin Hedges kind of coming back. You got Cookie Carrasco coming back. And it's good to see those guys back here. The sun's out. It's nice. And you get to see some familiar faces out there at the ballpark as we're kind of, you want to look at the young guys and the way that they're going to progress over the course of this spring training. But it's nice at the beginning, at the outset here, to really see some of those old faces that you recognize and see them getting into the grind as well.
Oh, yeah. And it seems like all the vibes are high from spring training. I think what's cool is to see the camaraderie or the chemistry, between everybody. And we have a few new guys, Daniel Schneemann and Scott Barlow. Like, there were some newer personalities, and it's funny how everybody just gets assimilated so quickly.
And you got to see it firsthand.
Oh, yes. I got to see it firsthand. I know you guys know I was out there to do my sideline reporting for chess.
Yes.
Yeah. So
what a unique experience, especially at spring training. You're bringing all these young guys in, and then you have a neat event like this, chess, to kind of kick things off.
It's wild, but I feel that Stephen Kwan introduced many players over the past few years to the game of chess.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how many people this piqued their interest and they wanted to learn how to play, or they just watched the guys in the clubhouse play chess for a long time. Kind of like when you watch streaming on video games, but instead it was chess.
That is cool.
And you guys know they partnered with the John Marshall chess team in the community. So that was really cool that they've been able to play with kids and the kids have been able to humble the guys. And Steven will be the first to tell you, you know, they're still teaching me things and there's one guy I just can't win against. So it was interesting.
At the school?
Yeah, at the school.
Nice. Somebody's got his number. I love it.
Yeah. I love that they're doing that community outreach piece.
Yeah.
And actually, I won't steal the thunder of the little package we're going to roll, but
I'm excited to see it.
they all got to donate to the charity. Well, the top 3 got to donate to the charity of their choice. So it was no surprise who Stephen Kwan chose. But let's roll our package to see how the chess.com Slug Champs chess tournament went. This was not the spring training opening lineup reveal. This was the bracket unveil for the first Slug Champs chess tournament sponsored by Chess.com. A lot of players might be antsy because it's the first official day of camp, but that's not where the nerves originated for 8 Guardians players who went head-to-head in a live stream chess tournament in an effort to win money for their charity of choice.
I'm so nervous. More nervous than opening day.
I'm more nervous for this than any game that I've played in.
We always take it really seriously when we're in the clubhouse, but actually having to play for something and us playing for charity is going to heighten the stakes a little bit.
Locker room bragging rights and pride were on the line too.
And I woke up today saying today's the chess tournament. Not today's the first day. Like I was telling Gab, like baseball, you know, I've done it my whole life. I feel prepared. Whatever happens, happens. But I mean, chess is a wild game. Anything can happen. You take 2 moves off and you're miles behind.
I think I've been hurt so many times by talking trash and then losing. That's the worst pain there is. So I think I hedge. I stay quiet, and if I win, that's great. And if I don't, then I stay quiet the whole time.
Over the course of 3.5 hours in the Guardians Spring Training Complex cafeteria, brains and chests were pounding. And Austin Hedges was pounding Miller Lights. The only hydration he needed to get what he calls the most significant single match win of his career against Kwan.
You know, I'd hate to bring up this bad memory, but you did lose to Austin Hedges while he was enjoying himself some Miller Lite. So what's a worse experience for you? Losing that game of chess or dropping like a pop fly that you should catch in your sleep?
Oh, no.
Oh, he wouldn't do that, first of all.
losing for sure. I think it would have been better if he was like down on the table a little bit, but the fact that he was like directly to my right while we were playing made it.
He was right, he was like, son.
Yeah, sunned me a couple times. I think there's a picture that got screenshot. I have like my hands in my face, and he's literally just like alpha staring at me. I know that one's gonna rotate a little bit, but I would pray I'd never lose.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are now with Bo Naylor. Okay, talk us through your first couple of rounds here. You swept Will Brennan. You're not gonna let him forget that, right?
Oh, of course not. You know, he's gonna hear from me, you know, at least once a day. Make it known that, you know, I'm his daddy in chess.
I feel like Austin Hedges will also be saying similar. Besides all the roasting and theatrics today, what has he offered you as a mentor?
You know, really just figuring ways to, you know, lead a team, lead a pitching staff, be a great teammate, bring good energy, hold everyone accountable and hold myself accountable at the same time. And, you know, just kind of give me different perspectives and ways to look at the game.
I just started playing chess, you guys, so I'm not the biggest expert, but I was picking your brain, and something about the time constraints enter the picture when it comes to just like delaying your demise.
Yeah, I did it against Tristan. I think I was losing, but he had less time than I did. So I think just play a solid game. You guys know it's just a little dirty flag. I'm not too shameless to admit it. I had to do it against him, but I was delaying my demise, but hopefully he ran out of time, and thankfully he did.
Steven went on to take the championship crown, beating Daniel Schneemann in the final, and Bo automatically earned a third-place finish after Hedges decided to exit the tournament early, maybe to take a Miller nap. T-Mac didn't make it into the final 3, but he did have winning style with his custom chess-inspired
I wanted
glove.
a little bit of back and forth, so we got a little bit of red and blue for like opposing sides, and then black and white chess pieces. A little bit of mint for like a little touch-up. Classic red.
Being the diligent student that he is, Kwan asked for some professional feedback from his performance.
Like, you getting low on time was leading to a lot of your mistakes. So it sounds obvious, like, oh, just play faster. But it really did feel like that was the one thing that stood out to me was your understanding.
What were your hardest hurdles today?
After the Hedges game that I lost, I think if losing that first one was bad, but losing that second one would have been even worse. So just being able to bounce back from that was affirming for sure. yeah, that was tough. I'll remember that one for a while.
Cool. Well, you're such a leader on the team and one of our most consistent players offensively. He's also played some mean defense, 2 Gold Gloves for you. What are you looking forward to about this season?
Just getting back to it. I think we got a new coaching staff that looks really promising. I think a lot of our guys took the offseason really seriously. I think we're gonna be nasty this year. I think we got a lot of potential coming up, and maybe people don't agree with that, but we're excited to see where it can go.
How about your partnership with John Marshall? What's that been like, and how did that get going?
Yeah, I think Megan, Penny, everybody in the community outreach, they were awesome. They found them. Still stay in touch with them. Some of them went to college, which is crazy now. I just always imagine them as high schoolers forever. But it's awesome. It's super rewarding. They teach me things about the game. I still haven't beaten a couple of them, which is crazy.
He's a great chess player. That's a great person. Stephen Kwan.
Love you, Tristan.
There you have it, the Quan's Gambit. As you can see, the guys took it pretty seriously.
Austin Hedges, chess smack champion.
Austin Hedges had a few Miller Lights during this tournament.
No, Gab, that was so cool. And I know we talk about it all the time on the show and on Big Play, bringing some of the guys on and having the opportunity to talk with them. It's so cool to see like the light side of these dudes. And, the normal fan has the opportunity to see the day in, the day out, and even the press conferences after where they give their same, PR approved scripted answers. It's so cool to see them interact in this way and get so into it. Like what Quan was saying, such a cool game. Like he gets as excited for as baseball at times, and Tristan had the custom made glove. It was just super cool to see. Good job out of you.
Thank you. Yeah, we were using some new mics. So something funny that happened during the broadcast, chess.com was having us use the computer audio, and it wasn't great. So about the first hour of the show, Steven, although he pointed out in the video that he doesn't talk too much smack, he likes to be quiet, I beg to differ because he was roasting me. He was like, I went out there just to check on how things were going because I was sort of in a separate area, but all the noise was going on. He's like, oh, man, Gab, you're getting cooked in the comments for the audio. Like, blah, 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 blah. So, ironically, I had bought those Amazon microphones, so I just whipped them out of the box, tried to see if they'd work with the chess.com's computers, and they did. So, the second half of the tournament, I was able to do our audio a little bit better for their broadcast, which was kind of cool. But
look at man, audio engineer, sideline reporter, tech help, you got it all.
Does it all.
Somebody tell Dave, he will not believe this.
Right, for sure.
But I just thought it was funny. I was so tickled by the fact that you're talking about their lighter side. I was no exception. I wasn't spared. He was roasting me out there too, like just letting me know, hey, you're getting roasted in the comments.
Anybody on the team kind of newbies to chess that came into this because of the chess culture around the Guardians right now?
Actually, Will Brennan said he watched the Queen's Gambit, and that's why he decided to play.
Really?
But he only really had about 6 months of experience. Yeah. And, he did get swept by Bo Naylor, I believe. And who else was new? Somebody else. David Fry joined at the last minute, and I don't know how experienced he was. He was pretty animated. He threw his little chess.com hat at Austin at one point across the room. It nailed him in the chest, and Austin, fell to his knees, made this whole theatrics. I thought he threw a Miller Lite at him. That's how loud it slapped his chest. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm trying to think who else was a little more.
How about our skipper? Does Stephen Vogt? Does he play at all?
That's a great question. I didn't see him around that day, but I bet they'll probably get him involved. He would be open to it. I see him as being pretty open to something like that.
I want to see him and Austin Hedges head to head. Because that would be legendary, right?
Yes.
I could just see those two personalities. That would be a lot of fun. That one needs to be live streamed.
Yes. Tanner Bybee, he was a newer one, too, to the game. But Tristan, he's pretty sharp. And Hedges, played when he was younger and then took a break, and it was surprising. He still got it a little bit. He couldn't against Steven. That's some tough competition. But yeah, it was a fun thing to observe for a few hours.
For sure.
Where should we go next, fellas?
Take a break and come back with some fill in the blank.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Gab Cruz, and we're looking at our fill in the blanks for today. Now that we've got the NFL Combine upon us, fellas, my favorite NFL Combine drill is...
It's got to be the 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
I always like the overlays where you see the past players, they're overlaid with the current players that are trying to improve their draft stock, and you see where they relate to some of the greats in the game and some of the fastest players ever. And then on the other end of it, you see the absolutely slow guys who you think you could come off the couch and actually beat. So I love that. I think that's great theater out there.
Yeah, they do such a nice job on the NFL Combine broadcast now to really make it appeal to the average fan. You know, the average football fan that turns this on and sees a bunch of guys running in their underwear. Why do you really care about this? It's cool, and I like when Rich Eisen does his 40-yard dash every single year, and they kind of pit him against his times of previous years. It is super cool. That's my favorite for sure, 40-yard dash. And this year, again, pertains to the Browns because we know that they need some vertical quickness out of that receiver room. So I'll be watching the receivers run that 40 very, very closely.
All right. I also think the 40-yard dash. That's the track.
You're a runner,
that's
so that's
the track
natural
girl
for you, right?
That's the track girl in me. The position group the Browns should be watching the most at the Combine is...
Spoiler alert, receiver.
Yeah.
I think everything that the Browns do this offseason needs to start and end with wide receiver. The reason behind that is this offseason so far has all been focused on Deshaun Watson. They got Ken Dorsey, a hire that was made to help Deshaun Watson along. Wide receiver should be no different. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, David Bell, those guys just aren't cutting it. I want to see them improve in that spot in free agency, which that'll come first. Free agency will open first couple weeks in March. And then again, when we circle back to the end of April in that NFL draft, I want to see them use one of those top selections on a wide receiver as well. This is all about getting Watson right. And I think you got to improve his pass catchers. All starts there for me, Chris.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm on the same page with wide receivers. One of the areas, though, that goes unheralded is kind of the later rounds. And assuming we keep a lot of these later rounds picks, I'll be looking for what kind of depth we can get because Andrew Berry's going to be looking for guys, young guys who we don't have to pay quite as much, who can play some of those depth positions along the lines is where I'd be looking to see if we can get kind of a cheaper, backup there for – we know it's a 17-game season now. You're going to need players. You're going to need that depth. So that's going to be important, and that's going to be an area I'm going to be watching in the Combine.
I've got a sleeper position for you, Chris, in the NFL draft this year that the Browns will be watching.
It is...
running back.
I was going to say running back.
The Browns are going to draft a running back at some point, folks. I wouldn't lose your mind. You know, also this week, part of the Combine week is you start to see the leaks of who the team is having their official visits with. Yeah. I imagine they're going to spend a long time checking out all these running backs. I know it was floated out there last week, the possibility of Nick Chubb being outright released by the Browns as a cap casualty. Mary Kay Cabot then reported that that's not in the plans. Right. Something's got to happen. They got to make something shake with his contract. He probably is going to open the season on the physically unable to perform list. So they're going to find a running back to start preparing for life after Nick Chubb, whatever that might look like.
I can't even go there in my mind.
How about a late round quarterback? Any thoughts about, the traditional, hey, we got a pick here. This guy's been on the board for a while. Why not? We'll see how he shakes out in camp.
Everybody talks about the Paul DePodesta guardrails, that they don't like drafting older players. They'll always look to skew a little bit younger. One of the guardrails that's out there that this organization likes to follow is constantly invest in the quarterback position. Yeah. They did it by drafting Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I would like to see them give DTR another true chance, though,
friend of show,
at being the backup. Friend of show, DTR. And not to mention, he gave us flashes. He beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. He looked good in the Denver Broncos game before he was hurt. And when you look at this quarterback class, especially late, it's disgusting. I think a lot of those guys you could just find off the street and then stash one of them on the practice squad. Like, there's nobody really that worth drafting late that you can't just pick up off the crap heap once the draft ends.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. The Cavaliers. So headed into the All-Star break, they won 18 of 21. After they were a little cold, dropped 2 of 3. It looks like their 3-ball might have been missing too. But the Cavs' slow start after All-Star break is.
Can we just blame sickness? I mean, Donovan Mitchell, he was out the first couple of games. Now a struggle against Washington. He's back. We end up getting the victory. I don't know. I think it's just taken him a little bit to get back into the fold here. There are some concerns about this team and about the rotations that JB's using right now. He showed it out over a larger span that he's able to figure that out. Now we'll see what happens in the second half of the season, or second, really third of the season now as we're coming into it. But you've got guys like Garland, who you're wondering, hey, is this the guy that we're going to need him to be come playoff time? He's got to work that out here at these last few games of the season to see if we can really have something and really make noise in these playoffs this year.
Yeah, I see that, all the chatter online, and I think some of it is warranted. Darius Garland hasn't been the same DG that we know. Some of the additions, Max Strus, hot and cold. Georges Niang, hot and cold.
0 3-pointers for Strus. Every time I see that 1.5, Nick, and I say, he's got to make 2 3-pointers in this game. We're playing Washington, for God's sakes, and he comes up with a big goose egg.
That signing has not been what the Cavaliers expected it to be by any stretch of the imagination. I think it pains them that they paid that sort of top dollar for a guy like Max Strus when you have a better option in Sam Merrill that you literally had on your own G League and you're paying next to nothing. But you have to play Max Strus because he's making all this money. So there is a little bit of a logjam there that Sam Merrill is definitely the better player, but his minutes are going to get pushed down because they got to see it from Strus, and he's the playoff NBA final tested guy that's been around the block, so they need him to come through for them as well. I'm glad that all this stuff with the Cavs is happening now. It's February. Get this out of your system now. Really let it run its course throughout March. You don't want to be the hottest team in basketball right now. What's that get you? Nobody really cares about the NBA right now.
This is all strategy. We were too hot. We were too hot. We needed to just come down, cool it down a little bit,
exactly,
and then heat it
back up in April when the playoffs start, and that's when things really get fun.
Speaking of heat, do you feel like Max Strus's attitude, his days with the Heat, have played a role at all?
I know, so I'll shout out my guy at ESPN Cleveland, Jordan Klimak. He is one of the founders behind this ideology of Heat culture. We hear so much about that. Eric Spoelstra gets these guys in Miami, and they play really well. I mean, Strus, perfect example. Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, their entire roster. But then when these guys leave Miami, that culture doesn't follow them. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with Max Strus. Is where's the same production and the same leadership that he had in Miami? We haven't seen it yet. That signing has just not been what the Cavs thought it would be. And I would stay away from Miami Heat players in free agency moving forward because they got something special that cooks there. But then when you remove it from out of there, it just never seems to work and it never seems to track.
Seems to fizzle. How about spring training? My favorite thing about spring training is
baseball's back. That's it right there. I was able to listen to the game yesterday on the radio, heard Rosie on there talking about the players and really getting myself familiar with the team once again and some of these young guys and being able to see the Austin Hedges hit a home run. I mean, those type of excitement moments that you get in spring training are kind of cool. The games themselves don't mean a whole lot, but you're looking to see the team kind of progress. You're watching this roster come together. You're watching this lineup come together for a young manager in Stephen Vogt. And at the end of the day, it's just nice to have baseball back. Right?
My favorite thing about this spring training, though, has got to be the Fanatics pants, the memes about the Fanatics pants. Everything that surrounds these pants are just the biggest disaster. And it leaves me wondering, I wonder if people that work in the NFL and in the NBA and are involved in those big time decisions, I wonder if they ever just look at Major League Baseball and just have a laugh. Because why did you need to toy with this? Why are these professional athletes wearing lingerie on the field? Like, who thought of that? Who approved it? And it is just so funny to see the memes that have birthed from this Fanatics pants snafu. I think they probably have to find a way to fix this.
Yeah, my biggest question is, are they going to let this go on all season long, or do they have to address this?
Who's going to be the first Guardians player? We are the perfect organization to troll. right?
Somebody's gonna end
With
up
the
wearing, like,
white
something
pants with
hot
the pink
pink.
underwear.
Yeah,
I would be the
somebody's gonna
first
troll
person
them.
to bust out the pink
Yeah.
underwear with these white pants because, man, they don't leave much to the imagination.
Kids underoos. Just go out there with like kids underwear.
Batman
with, yeah, your
underwear.
Batman undies,
Oh,
your
yeah.
Superman undies.
That would be so funny. You know, a
Yeah.
guy like Austin Hedges or somebody
be
who
all
would,
about
would
it.
do something like that.
They got to fix the pants. They got to
It's
find
a,
a
it's a
way.
long season. I mean, you're looking for excitement. Roll out there in some underoos. That's going to add some national excitement. All of a sudden, people are going to be talking about the Guardians.
One of my favorite things about spring training was, first of all, the weather was amazing. But
Yeah.
did you guys see that photo shoot that the scoreboard team expertly executed with the '80s gear and the wigs
saw
and
that.
everything?
I missed it. No.
It was like highlighter colors, very Saved by the Bell.
Nice.
Channeling their inner Screech. It was pretty good. It was pretty funny.
It was perfect. And those will create too for the meme. My favorite memes are when people, after they beat a team and the losing team posts the score graphics, the other fans just flood the comments. We'll have some fun flooding the comments with pictures of the guys in the big wigs and the
Yeah.
vibrant colors. It'll be cool this offseason. All right, guys, let's step aside. When we return, we have one more fill in the blank, and then we will hit some bets. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland show. Our big play bets this week, we could jump right into it. Kind of plays right into our last fill in the blank, are brought to you guys by Tipico Sportsbook. Tipico has a lot rolling out for you guys. Football season is over. They were disappointed about it. We are too. But listen, the Tipico cashback rewards are here. They rolled out earlier this week on Monday. You guys got to download Tipico. You are getting actual cash back now for every bet that you place. So similar to your credit cards, your banks, how that works. When you bet on Tipico, you'll get actual cash back. We got a lot of fun basketball challenges and baseball challenges on the way. So download Tipico. Start getting that cash back in real time to bet on Guardian Spring Training, Cavs, big play boosts every night. Use code Cleveland100 when you bet $25. You're going to get $100 of bets on Tipico. You got to be 21 years older to gamble in Ohio. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Guys, we'll do one more fill in the blank. I'll steal this one. The Guardians win total of 78.5 games on Tipico is blank. 78.5 is that number, Chris.
So 2 years ago, we had 92 wins. Last year, we had 76 wins. I'm guessing we're going to go over 80 this year. I'm going to kind of split the difference there. I'm going to say 82 wins for this ball club. So I think that number is low.
Okay.
Oof, so low. Guys, I don't know if I'm being overly optimistic, but with our pitching staff and hopefully everybody being healthy, I just really think good things are ahead. I know we need the bats. I know that's going to be a huge outlier too.
We got Austin Hedges now hitting home runs in spring training.
I just don't know.
Problem solved.
I feel like this is going to be another 2022-esque season for us. At least that's just the vibes I have now. And so it's very early.
Manufacturing a lot of runs.
Yeah,
which we were
I don't
able to
know.
do without hitting the long ball.
I see us over 90 again. I might be shooting high, but I think Typico has them a little low. I
Over
really
90.
do.
Look at this.
Look at this pitching staff, though. Tanner Bybee.
Has me blocked on
I
Twitter. Yeah, I think that part of it is why Tipico has this number so low. Not because Tanner has me blocked
he's
on
got you
Twitter,
blocked.
but
Yeah.
because there is a lot of youthfulness. Let's leave it at
they're
that, and a lot of
balling out.
immaturity on this ball club, and some guys that just haven't had a full Major League Baseball season under their belt quite yet that we're going to be relying them on. So when you create a number 78.5, it does feel low. I think they're going to be over 85 wins for
Wow.
sure.
What did you
Closer
get
to that
blocked for?
90
What did you
number.
get blocked
I have no idea. You go through my tweets at Nick Padone 12. No, never said anything wrong or even remotely shameful about Mr.
Well,
Bybee.
his
Is that
dad
right?
followed me on
That's
Twitter
true.
after the chess tournament.
I
so
think
I'm
the
in good
Bybee
graces.
I think the Bybee family has a little rabbit ears because I got that follow too.
Oh, from his dad?
I did some digging. The dad follows me, kid has me blocked. So
okay.
what can you do?
No kidding.
Wow, we're going to have to dig into this
he,
drama.
he was a great interview, actually, but I didn't want
to get to the bottom of it.
He actually was a really cool interview. He was my first one of the chess tournament, but I didn't want to include it in the package because the audio was
Did you
so
ask
bad.
him why he hates your friend Nick?
That's
No,
what I'm
I
saying.
would have if you
Unblock
would've-
me, Tanner. I mean, geez, one of the best value bets. So if we're talking about bets on Tipico to win AL Cy Young, I mean, he's all the way down there near the bottom, and we've seen the way that the Cleveland Guardians Guardians are able to produce starting pitching with Bybee, Gavin Williams, Tristan McKenzie, and his first full, we think, year as being that quasi ace with Shane Bieber. That's really my favorite pick on the board is McKenzie, Cy Young. I know, Chris, we talked about it a little bit last week, but the pitching is there. It's young. I get that. I think that's part of why Tipico has this number as low as it is at 78.5.
I just think they play off of each other, and when one person rises up, the next person wants to rise up, and the next person, they just have a really good inner working with this starting five, in my opinion. So I have high expectations for
All
them.
right, Gab's got him over 90. I got him at 85, and you said what, Chris? 82? All right, we are all going over, maybe a little bit optimistic. We will step aside when we return. We have Cavs bets. OSU basketball out of nowhere, Chris.
They're back, baby.
They're back in action, so we'll talk about all of that. Don't go anywhere. More Big Play Cleveland bets right after this. Welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland show. Had a lot of fun talking Guardians win total last segment. I'm glad to see that we're all over that 78.5 number. I really think in this crappy division, if you could get to 80, you're probably looking at playoffs, man.
I'm just so sick of getting roasted, this team. I want us to bounce back. I want this to be another rock the baby. I want all the smoke this season.
And going down to the stadium and all those blue seats. Nice and filled up come midsummer and that place rocking. I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully, like you said, the young guys are going to have to come through. The veteran leadership is going to have to be there. Jose Ramirez is going to have to continue to be out of his mind, I think, for this team to be good this season. And we're going to rely on those guys as these younger guys come along.
Chris, and how often do we talk about with these teams, in Cleveland, it all starts at the top. Yeah. Last year, you mentioned those seats, when they started to empty out later in the season. Those green seats. I was seeing a lot of green and not a lot of humans sitting in them. And a reason I think that was because of was they traded Aaron Savali when they were a game back of first place in the division at the MLB trade deadline. You need that buy-in from ownership, from upper management to have a team that's competitive on the field in baseball, especially. I know we're all optimistic. We need that same kind of buy-in from top down for this thing to really materialize.
When we traded Savali,
our guy,
Kyle Manzardo, baby, and he had a hit yesterday.
Two hits.
Couple of hits there. So already early returns are good on the guy. Somebody we're very high on here on the show, and I know nationally people have been looking at, and somebody we got back in that trade. So we'll see if that short-term trade may continue to give us some long-term returns.
We need it to. We need all the offense that we can get. Kyle Manzardo, please don't let us down. Let's take a look at our Cleveland Cavaliers. We talked about their kind of ups and downs. Knicks at Cavs on Sunday. The rematch,
is this going to be national TV?
I'm not sure. I'll take a look. But what are your initial thoughts into this matchup, Cavs-Knicks? I would like to see big things from Jared Allen and Evan Mobley to kind of rid themselves of what happened in the playoffs last year.
Well, and naturally going to New York, you're looking at Donovan Mitchell. You're looking at how he's going to respond. I believe this one is on the road. Are we going to New York?
It's in Cleveland.
Oh, it's in Cleveland. Well, never
mind.
mind.
It is on ESPN.
And it's on ESPN, so I was 1 for 2 there. So you're in Cleveland, so Donovan Mitchell's still going to be showing New York what's up on national TV here. I'm looking at the rotations. I want to see some of these depth guys, and even at the top end, we've been talking about Strus. Is he going to be able to fit in or fit out with this club? And that's what we're going to be looking at the back half of the season. I need him just to hit a couple of threes because that would really be nice for my little economy here. But for the team overall, I want to see how these rotations start to shake out. So I'm looking for Donovan Mitchell at the top, and then I'm going to be looking for that depth there and what JB does with this team.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at the Cavs, in the playoffs, Chris, we talked about it, I think, last week on the show. I would love a rivalry with the New York Knicks. Yeah. I think this sets up perfectly for a nice little back and forth. Obviously, they're right behind the Cavs in the current standing in the Eastern Conference, so that could be a potential second-round matchup, and that would be great theater.
Well, and it was fun. Nick and I, we had a chance to go to Madison
Madison
Square
Square
Garden
Garden
back earlier in the season and be a part of that. And that was really early on, one of the first 10 games of the season there when we played. And we beat them there in the Garden. And I'll tell you what, just that atmosphere and having the historic Garden that we're sitting in amongst all those Knicks fans was fantastic. Seeing Spike Lee there on the floor. I mean, I was just projecting to what this is going to look like come the playoffs now. Having another shot at them potentially, I think would be fabulous. And this kind of is the appetizer for what could happen at the end of this season here coming up on Sunday.
And then, of course, we have Guardian Spring Training, which rolls on every single day throughout the week. Good luck making your prediction early in the week for this because you never really know who's playing in a spring training order this early on. Chris, have you dabbled in the Tipico spring training odds yet, or have you not stepped into that sector yet?
I have watched all the games or listened to all the games that we've had so far. I have not gotten down to that level yet. Have you?
I have not either. Okay. I've yet to place my first spring training bet. And my ideology, kind of different from that. They only have over-under totals and then money lines, for Guardians or their opposition. I don't want to jinx the Guardians. Even so early in spring training, I just feel like, man, why would I put that bad omen on them by betting on them this early in? Maybe hold out for opening day or see some prop bets that start to come through for spring training.
That's smart, since it's such a mix in spring training anyway.
Yeah, you never truly know. All right, we are going to step aside. We will lock in one more bet. I think a bet that Reflog will like when we return on the Big Play Cleveland show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back into the Big Play Cleveland show. We are locking in our bets on the Tipico Sportsbook app. If you haven't downloaded it already, give it a download. Use that promo code Cleveland100, all caps, all one word, Cleveland100. When you bet $25 on Tipico Sportsbook, you're going to get $100 of bets to bet along with the show crew every single week when we lock in our bets on this show. We'll do Minnesota United FC at Columbus Crew on Saturday. The Crew started off their season hot, 1-0. They got that win against Atlanta. It was cool to see, Chris.
That was pretty wild. Waking up on Saturday morning and having a couple of inches of snow down there in Columbus and realizing that that's opening day. It's Christmas for the Columbus Crew. Here they're defending their title, their third title in the MLS Cup, and starting off in snowflakes for, what's the biggest game of the year up to this point for that team. And it was nice to get that win. It was nice to get that victory, a 1-0 victory there against Atlanta. And now in Cucho Hernandez, once again with a goal, our boy.
So that's
we had the money on.
That's the thing, man. I don't know anything really about soccer or the Crew. I'm not going to ever really pretend to, but I know this one bet that made me so much money last season. And then coming into this season, I'm like, this bet didn't let me down. It's not going to let me down now. First game of the year, I just need Crew money line and Cucho goal scorer. That's all I know about the Crew is that bet prints money, and it hit again in the opener.
Cucho Hernandez show continues there in Columbus.
Beautiful.
What do you think happens? Next game they've got Minnesota United at the Columbus Crew. Another home game for the Crew. What do you think, Nick?
I'll go with the same exact bet. How about that? I'll just keep on betting it, especially when the Crew are at home. Cucho goal scorer, Columbus Crew win. Why not?
And I'll trail that. I mean, why not, right? We rode it all year last year, rode it all the way to a championship, so might as well start off the season the right way.
Might as well keep it going. Make sure you guys download that Tipico Sportsbook app to bet along with us. It'll be a lot of fun. Like you said, Chris, that soccer season snuck up, and I think next week we'll have a little bit of a NFL Combine recap as well as a NFL free agency look ahead, because that always sneaks up too, man, those first couple weeks of March when the free agents start moving
And we
along.
marched towards March Madness here. Yeah. Shout out the Ohio State Buckeyes. Last-second victors over Michigan State. With that and a win over Purdue, sprinkle in some more and then go win the tournament, and maybe we're in the big tournament, Nick.
Yeah, you guys definitely got to keep it locked on Big Play, all of our socials, because we are going to be betting on the MAC championship, the Big Ten tournament, when those Ohio State Buckeyes try to sneak their way into March Madness. Could you imagine that? It almost happened last year.
Big Ten tournament.
Almost happened last year.
They did.
So we'll see if that can happen again. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Big Play Cleveland show. I'm Nick Padone. She's Gab Cruz, Chris McNeil. we'll do it all again next week. See you then.